There's a lot of information out there on how to get your church's broadcast or the main output from your console to your computer, and I've made videos about that. But today we're going over how to get things set up for a multilingual audience so we can set up a translation app to receive just the speaking mics from the console and take that into an app, broadcast it, and translate it in real time for a bunch of different languages. And on the app, it will actually speak it in an AI voice so that you don't even have to read while someone else is speaking. Hey, if you're new here, my name is James Attaway, and I help church sound techs, worship leaders, and tech directors eliminate the mystery and frustration when it comes to sound at church. So if that's you, you've found the right place. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. It helps me out a lot. This episode's sponsor is the Hope Translator app, which I'm going to be showing you today, but I'm also going to be showing you how to set it up. So if you're coming from the translation side, this is a great one to do. If you're coming from the technical side, this is the way that you can set it up and get it working with a phone or a computer to get those microphones in there and get a clean signal to your translation broadcast. Now, there are a bunch of different ways to get audio into the app, either through a phone or a computer, and there are a bunch of different sources, like many different consoles. So if I showed them all to you, this video would be more than an hour long, and you would be kind of bored. So instead, I'm going to show you some of the options from the most simple to the most complex that can help you get the signal that you need, and some of the pros and cons of doing the different ways of getting audio into that phone or into that computer. First, let me show you how the app works. I've got my handy Android phone here, and you can see I've got my Hope Translator app. If I launch this, it's going to ask me to log in, and I've already logged in. I just put in my email address. That was it. And it shows me my history of what I've done before, but I'm going to go ahead and hit broadcast. Now, when I have broadcast, I can select my input language, which for me is American English. The preview translation, I selected German because of all the viewers that I have on my channel, the most of you come from Germany of the languages that are here outside of the US. And the microphone, it says default microphone, it says profanity filter. So that if I accidentally say something that might be construed as a bad word, it goes ahead and eliminates that, so it doesn't translate that into other languages. We won't test it today, don't you worry. Okay, something went wrong with our broadcast, but we can share this, so we can hit our audience, we can see how many viewers we have. We have a channel name, we could name it if we wanted to, but if I hit share, it pops up with a QR code. So now on my iPad, I can go over here and hit Hope Translator, and I can just hit join a channel. I don't have to log in or anything, and I can scan a QR code. It's going to ask me to take a look at this QR code if I can get my orientation right. There we go. All right. Now it's waiting for the host to start. You can see that my language is Deutsch. And if I hit play over here on the phone, it's going to connect. It's going to wait. And in just a moment, I will be able to speak into the phone, and it will speak in German on the iPad. We got to wait for the little gear wheel to start going. Just takes a second. It's connecting. We're going to go back and start a new broadcast. Here we go. Broadcast stopped. Turn this on. We're going to connect. Now it says I'm live, and we have it on the iPad as well. So as I'm talking, you can see the text is popping up on the iPad here. If I want to listen, I can actually hear it, and then you'll be able to hear it through this microphone too. I'm not turning on headphones for this one. That's how it's going to work. So it's actually going to hear itself because it's actually creating somewhat of a feedback loop. So I'm going to turn off listen for now. But that's how the app works with just the built-in microphone in the phone and the app on the other end. This could be used for a bunch of different listeners. So they could pop in their earbuds, they could have their phone in their pocket, and they could get a live translation in the middle of your service without having to set up, say, a fold-back system or having somebody translating in another room. That stuff could get a little bit difficult. So we're going to leave this running while I describe some of the other options we have, because it's not always practical to just have a phone sitting here in front of you and have the person speaking also talking into a phone, or maybe they tuck it in their pocket and just the microphone is picking that up. But we've got some better options, and that way also somebody can monitor the phone to make sure that it's still broadcasting properly. So we want to make sure that it's broadcasting properly, but we'll talk about some more of the pros and cons later. Now, if you wanted to, you could set up an external microphone with this. So I'm old school, so my phone still has a 3.5 millimeter jack in here, so that you could hook up either some earbuds with a microphone or just a straight up microphone like the Rode Smart Lav. I've used that in the past for recording on my phone when I'm doing YouTube videos. You could plug a microphone straight into there, but let's imagine that you want to have a little bit of distance between the microphone itself. I mean, I guess you could use AirPods, you could use any type of microphone you wanted, and even if you didn't want to have the phone sitting out there, imagine let me see if I can find my microphone. You've got a microphone. You could just connect the microphone that's connected to here to the side of the speaking microphone. So that when someone's speaking, they can talk into it. And they're talking into this microphone that's going through the PA. And then it's also getting picked up by the translation app. And there's just one little wire going through there. But if you've got people passing it off or handing it off one to another, this gets a little clunky, right? So maybe we don't necessarily want to have the microphone on this wired one going wired to the phone that's broadcasting. Maybe we also want to be able to monitor it so that we can stop and restart it if it has an error in the middle. One way we can do this is with a wireless microphone, and they make a bunch of these for video series. I've got an older one. These are the Rode Link microphones, and there's a transmit side that says TX, and there's the receive side that says RX. So this one has a microphone plugged into it, and let me power these both on. They'll be on the same channel. You still have to make these work together, right? And this side, I can actually plug into my phone as the mic input, right? So now this receiver can go wherever the phone wants to go. So this could go back by the sound booth if we wanted to. So somebody could, making sure that we are getting a good signal there, and then we just have to either clip this on the person speaking that needs translating, or we could, again, attach it to this microphone. Although, I have to say, if you keep two microphone transmitters really close together, they can act funny. You might get some interference, so you don't necessarily want to tape this to this. That would probably be bad, or at least have the potential of being bad. So maybe these still need to be separate. Maybe you clip this on somebody's belt while they're using the handheld microphone. And even this little handy rubber mic stopper thing, you could stick this microphone up through here, through one of these holes, and now it's kind of jammed in there, and that's going to work. As you can see, it's still translating as we go. So now we have the wireless version of doing this, and the phone could be someplace else. Just as long as you have a good audio signal, it's going to be able to translate that properly. Let me tell you about some other options though, because maybe you don't want to have to deal with this so much. Maybe you just want to deal with one microphone and you want to come out of the soundboard, or you've got multiple microphones and you want those to be summed together and just one of those inputs goes to the phone for the translation. Oh, I almost forgot to mention that if your phone doesn't have a 3.5 millimeter jack, there are adapters like this Lightning to 3.5 millimeter adapter and this USB-C to 3.5 millimeter adapter. These will work for accepting either that microphone straight into it or the wireless transmitter that's ready to go there. So these are options in case you have connectivity issues with, you have a newer phone that kind of abandoned the headphone jack. These can be some options. You can pick these up for under $10. Now, if you've got a soundboard that you want to go through and you just want the speaking mics only, not any instruments, not anything else that might clutter up or confuse your translation app, you want to use an aux send or a direct output. Now, let me explain what those are. An aux send is a second mix that's aside from the main mix that combines all your mics together and goes to the main speakers. Often these are used for things like monitor sends, so somebody can hear themselves on stage while they're playing and singing. But we can use these to only send the speaking microphones to one single output on the console. So here's how we would set up a bus to take all of our translation inputs and send it to a single output on the Behringer wing. I have the compact version, but it's going to be the same if you have the wing itself. So before we get started, we actually have to identify which channel we want to send it on. We want to send this handheld channel, and we need to send it to a bus. So we need to go over here to our bus masters and select this, and we're going to choose bus 5 because it's a good number, and we're going to go ahead and name it. So we're going to name it Translate. And we can't stop early on that one anymore. So we have Translate as the name of our bus. Now we need to make sure that it's sent someplace. So we're going to go to our routing page. On our routing page, we're going to choose outputs up here at the top. And our outputs, we're going to say the local out number 5, which we want to match, is going to come from bus number 5 and the left side of that. It's set up that it can be stereo. We're just coming off the left side. You don't need to worry about that. If it's not letting you do stuff, hit that little green lock button so that you can make any changes there. But now that is set up so that it's coming off of there, and that should be good. So we've named it, we've routed it. We also need to make sure that the master for that channel or for that bus is up. Otherwise, we won't get anything on the output side. So we need to make sure that this is up so this is kind of like the master throttle for everything that's sent to it. If this is down, nothing will go toward the output and our phone that's connected or the computer interface that's accepting our speaking signals that can be then translated via the Hope Translator app. So we've turned up the master of this bus and we've assigned this bus to the back of the console. I'll show you what that looks like in just a moment. So now we need to go to our input channels, and we can see that we've got all our input channels. These are all our band inputs, but we don't need to translate those. These are all our keys inputs and our vocal singing mics, but the one that we want is right here on the handheld channel. We want to send to bus 5. So if we navigate to this section here, we can select bus here, and now these buttons here correspond with the buses that we set up, and we can see it labeled right here. It says translate. So if we hit button number 5, now these faders are signifying how much and what channels are sent to this bus. You can see on this layer, we don't have any of our band inputs sent there. We don't have any of our singers sent there. We want to unmute that channel and send it at a nominal level going to the output of this bus. Now, when someone is speaking on our handheld channel, it will go to our main mix. If we turn this up, we speak through this channel, it would be going to our main mix and we would hear that through the speakers. But it would also be sent by itself to bus 5, where now this is being sent to the output on the back of the console and then our computer so that our program can translate it and get it into the hands of those that need to hear the word. On the Allen and Heath SQ series, what we're going to take a look at is how we're going to get to a mix or an aux send with our two handheld mics, or our handheld mic and our preaching mic. We're here on layer A with all of our input channels. The button that we need to press to send it somewhere is going to be along here. That's how we get to sends on faders. To see which one we want to go to, we're going to go to layer D by default, is where these are shown up. And I've already renamed this one Translate, and I made it a different color so that we can know, hey, this is where this one needs to go. So we want to go onto aux 1, and that's going to correspond to this button over here. On layer A, if we hit this, now these faders are going to be going to the aux send, and this is going to be the master for it as well, so make sure that that is up and not muted. Now that both of these are sent there, then we're going to go back to this mix on D. We're going to select it, but now we're going to go to the routing page. Now we're going to make sure that we're on all post. All post means that when the fader is turned down here going to the main mix, it's also not going to the translation so that nobody gets some unwanted words or things that don't need to be translated aren't going there. It's only when they're speaking to the entire congregation and these are up sent to the main mix that they're also sent to this translate mix over here. So now that those are on all post, we should be good to go and we can route our output. Now to route our output, by default, if we go to the IO page and we're looking at the outputs, we're going to look at the output patch, and we can drag around here. We can see there are groups that are patched, and we are going to the mix outputs. We can see that we're on local, and so the translate output or the translate mix is sent to local number 1, and so that's going to be the XLR jack on the back of this board here. Means local, means it's right here. If it was over an S-Link or for a remote stage box, it would be on here and we would have to enable it that way. Or if we're going to go out USB, we could assign it here so that the USB sends going to the computer would be here from the translate as well. Those are all the different ways we can get that out with an aux send on the SQ series. Now, when I say output, there's a couple different ways that we can get out of the board and into our computer or a phone. One way is to go over USB. So many digital consoles will have a way to connect the audio to and from the computer over a USB cable. To figure out which one goes where, you have to do a little bit of digital patching. So you have to find out where it might say something like routing or IO or patch and figure out that aux send that you've sent these microphones to, which output is going to the computer. And usually if it's just a stereo input, it would be USB 1 and 2. Those might be some keywords that you're looking for. Another way that you could come out of the board is through an analog output. This is a jack on the back of the console, or it could be from a remote stage box, but that might be a little bit complex for you if you're watching this video. Either way, it comes out analog, and so now we have to get that over to a computer and re-digitize it. If you just have a single microphone that needs translated, you could use what's called a direct output, which wouldn't use up one of your aux sends or mixes on the board, and this just takes the input of the microphone and sends it right back out to this USB send. If you are out of buses on your wing and you didn't have a bus available to send there, go out of this. And we were just looking at our input channel, and this is the only one that we had. There was only one channel that we wanted going to the translation, and that's the only one that is going to get sent to our computer. Every other speaking mic is not going to be translated. Here's how we would do that, and it's a little bit tricky on the wing. Before we can send the direct output here, we have to create a custom user source, which is kind of weird. So we're going to hit sources, and on this drop down you might have a local in or AES50A as your source group over here, but we're going to start on user signals. And now we can choose user signal number 5 because we're going to keep that consistent because 5 is the one that we used before. I'm going to hit initialize so that it's as if there was nothing there. And before we've done this, there's no connections. There's nothing assigned to user signal number 5. To do that, I would hit the assign button over here. And now I can choose a source channel, an aux channel, a bus, a main, a matrix. We don't want to do that because we have options for those getting to outputs anyway. We want to keep it on channel. And now we can choose any of our input channels that we have. We can see we can select all 40 of them. But the one that we want to select is the handheld. We also want to select post. That will mean that it's post fader. So if the person running sound pulls this down, then nothing will be sent to the output going to the translation. So if somebody's saying something on the side that we know wouldn't want to be heard through the rest of the house, that's going to go down here, and it's also going to go down to the translation app. So hitting post there is going to be very, very helpful. We can close this, but now we still have to assign that user output to our output on the back of the console. Now here in the output section, we make sure that this is unlocked. And for local output number 5, instead of bus and group, we're going to choose user signal. And you can see that this one is a little bit lighter blue. It's ready to be used. We can tap that one, and now that signal is going to be going out from a direct output that is post fader. So nobody hears anything on the translation that they weren't meant to hear. To route a direct output, say if we only wanted the preaching mic to be sent to the translation app, then we would go, instead of mix out, we would say input direct outs for this tab. Now, if we scroll down here, we can see all of our inputs, and we can find the one that says preach. If we want it to go out the local output, if we're coming out analog, we would select that. And when we want to change something, it's going to ask us if we want to do that, and if it will also enable the patch button. That patch button keeps you from unwantingly or unnecessarily adding patch points that you didn't mean to and getting yourself into trouble. So usually we turn this on just to make changes, and we turn it off again to make sure that we don't make unwanted changes. We could also send that via USB if we wanted, and we could do both of them. It doesn't matter, it's not going to limit it. But it's going to ask us again, do we want this direct out to go to USB? And we can see that it's also sent out to local. So it can be sent to multiple places. It doesn't have to be just one, but we can do that, belt and suspender style. We can have it coming out the local output to go to an audio interface, or we can go out USB to go directly to the computer from the console. The only problem with direct outputs is the routing for the direct output. So we would have to go to the routing, and instead of selecting the translate, we're going to hit select on preach, and then see up here at the top it says direct output. The direct output source we would have to change globally, and that would have to be post delay, but we could also follow fader. That way when the fader is down, it's not being sent to the direct output, just like we selected post on the aux send. On the other side, if you're using a computer or a phone, there are different audio interfaces that you can use that's going to take that analog signal and turn it back into a digital signal that your computer can recognize and then transmit to be translated on the other end. So here in the back of the board, we can see our outputs. That you can see it's labeled out, but if it's not labeled, the pins point in the direction the signal is going. So if we want to come out of the console, we're going to look for where the pins are pointing. And then we have our audio interface. I've got this one plugged in. This one needs an external power supply, and there's also a USB-C cable to plug into your computer. That's next. But to get the signal here, we're going to go out of the console with our mic cable. We're going to plug it in here. We've patched it to number 1. And then the other end of this mic cable can go into the audio interface here and get plugged in right there. So you can see this is turning yellow and even red some. So that's telling us that that's probably too much signal. This is the trim part where we can turn this down, and we want it to live where it's like, it's green when there's signal, but maybe not on when there's no signal. Or we can live where it's kind of like between green and yellow. A little bit of yellow is fine. That's going to be fine. We just need to get a clean enough signal here. Now, if you have an audio interface and you see something like plus 48 or 48V, you don't want to turn that on. That's for special types of microphones. The console doesn't really like that if you're going to send DC power back into it. So try to avoid that if you can. And now we can go and hook this up to the computer and hook this into the Hope Translator app on our computer so that we can get it looking at this audio interface for our input. On the back of the Wing Compact, our outputs are right here. Again, we're looking for those pins to point out to where the signal is going to go. So if we had patched it, I think we did on this one, to output number 5, then we would plug in right there. That's where we would find that. In your Chrome browser, when you open up Hope Translator and you get logged in, it's going to ask you if you want to allow the microphone. I'm using this Scarlett 18i8 USB interface. This is where you're going to select which interface the browser is going to let you use. Right, so they have some security features there. You want to make sure that you select that and allow while visiting this site. Now, when you show up on here, we can see that there's a selection here as well. You can choose default, you can choose that one. It's going to work and it's going to show you if the levels are good. So if the levels are too high, let me turn up the preamp on the interface and get close to this microphone. You can see that right up on this microphone, those levels are really high and are just about to clip or distort. It's actually distorting at my audio interface, but on the web interface, on the website, it's not showing red above that point, but we still want it to be not clipping, just so that we're getting a good signal. But we want the signal level to be in the green in both places, right? So in the green or yellow on the interface, but we want to have enough level so that it's loud enough getting to the website so that they can accurately hear your voice and accurately translate it, right? A good signal with low noise means that it's going to be able to hear it and translate it better. So those are the two things we're trying to avoid, is distortion from the microphone being turned up too much at the interface and too much noise from having too low of a signal. So if I get quieter, you can see on here that the levels are down there. The red and the orange means that it's having to boost up the signal too much on the other end, and it could have more artifacts. If you wanted to hear what signal you're getting to make sure that it's strong enough, you could check this playback audio right here. You would want to do this with headphones though, so you wouldn't want to play this back through speakers because that could create an echo or a feedback loop, and that's not what we want to do. Again, you can see your channel name that you've set up, what's your input language, and your preview translation is going to be. Again, there are many translations available, many different languages that are available here. So it's all very exciting. Glad to have that. And then you could configure it in ProPresenter or OBS or presentation streaming software, but that's beyond the scope of this video today. So that's how you get it set up. You make sure that you've got the right microphone selected for your audio interface. Make sure that you've got your levels at a good spot, and then you should be ready to broadcast. These audio interfaces don't have to be complex. They can be very simple with just a single or two inputs. All they have to do is be able to connect to the computer and have maybe a little bit of level control. Sometimes these units are looking for a much lower level at what's called mic level, but the signal from our soundboard is called line level. It's already boosted up to the level that it needs to interface with other pro equipment. Most of the time, we're going to want to leave our input trim or our gain or our boost all the way down on these inputs so that we don't overload the circuit going into the computer. One interface that won't break the bank is the PreSonus Audio Box Go, and I'll put a link to that down in the description below, and these are affiliate links, so if you purchase through them, they generate a small commission for me at no additional charge to you, and it very much blesses me if you would do that. Another great audio interface is the Focusrite Scarlett Solo. Either of these will work, and both of them are bus powered, so you don't need an external power supply, and it keeps your cabling down and simpler at your soundboard. It is possible to use some of these audio interfaces into a phone or a tablet, so if that's the type of unit that you want to use for your broadcast, that's definitely possible, but you have to watch out for one thing. Some of these audio interfaces, and some more that I'll have linked below, can actually run straight into your phone or tablet via USB-C or a lightning connector. This can make things very simple and portable, but it's also going to use the phone or tablet's battery to power the interface, so you might run into problems where your battery gets drained a little bit faster than normal. You'll just have to keep an eye out for that. Now, as you can see on the phone, I'm about to run out out of time on my free plan. So you can try it and check it out, but there is a limit to how much you can have translated before they ask you to sign up and subscribe. Hey, I got to the editing portion of this video and I remembered I forgot to tell you about the pricing and how to sign up. So the best way to sign up is through the website, because for a limited time, you get a free month when you sign up through the website only, not through the App Store or Google Play. So let me take you through some of the pricing options so that you can see the difference and see what might fit well for your church or what you might want to pay attention to. The basic plan is going to give you 10 hours of real time per month, which should be plenty if you've got 4 church services a month and they're less than 2 hours each. That should be plenty of time. But on the basic plan, you get up to 5 people listening at one time. So that's going to be kind of the limiting factor depending on your church size. Up at the standard plan, you get up to 20 audience members' phones and 20 hours of real-time translation per month. For most of your smaller churches that are multilingual, this will probably be enough, especially if there are people who can share phones or use headphone splitters, things like that. There are bigger packages as well if you need a little bit more, and so you've got a very large multilingual congregation, these other packages are going to be right. But pay attention to the number of people that you have and the number of hours that you can have per week. And remember, if you use my code ADAWAY, you get that free month and it generates a little bit of revenue for me, and I am very appreciative of that too. If you have any questions, please be sure to type them down in the comments below. And remember, it's all about the low end. Avoid the sound tech solo, and nobody leaves church humming the kick drum. Be sure to hit subscribe and mash that thumbs up. It really helps me out. And we'll see you back here next time on ADAWAY Audio.